when people are together in person or virtually, great things happen. Like really cool things happen when your users are able to meet each other. One of the cool things that happens is that they find a way to make your service or your product even better. So they'll talk to each other about the successes they've had with your product or service and make each other feel better about using it. Then they'll go and they'll tell other people about it. So you're actually putting people together to become evangelists for you. That's one major thing that I've seen at events. Another thing is that you can actually monetize your event. So of course there are ticket sales, there's sponsorships you could do, partnerships you could have, and you could monetize an event that way. But most people I know who are putting on events are really not making a lot of money from the event itself. In fact, it could be that your event costs you more than you make from the event directly. But what you can do at the event is use it as what is called a dramatic demonstration. This is something where you can sell something else from the event. So right now you may be getting your sales from online, you may be jumping on calls with people, Zooms, you may be meeting people, attending events, speaking from stage even, and people come up to you and ask you to learn more, you send them a QR code, et cetera, et cetera. And that is really a cool way to do it. But imagine instead of being on someone else's stage and trying to really convince their audience to give you their time, it's like borrowed attention. Imagine you could do that with everyone in the audience, no matter if it's 6 people or 6,000 people, everyone in the audience is there because they want to hear from you. They've opted in to your messaging, to your service, to your product, by being in the room, either virtually or in person. Then what you can do with that attention is you can, along the way, whether you have a 1, 2, or 3-day event, or even a couple of hour event, you can help explain what you do, why what you do is important, and why what you do will help the person on the other side. And there's nothing like, especially in person, hearing directly from the messenger in a group of other people who are getting just as inspired and excited by what you're talking about. So from stage, and even with your materials that you give out to people, you can sell your service or product. So here's an example. There's an event that I recently attended, 3-day event, lots and lots of really great information. I'll talk to you about that event later in this course. And what they did is when you registered in person, you got a little pamphlet and it told you the agenda for the 3 days. There's maybe 10, 12 pages in this pamphlet. Everybody gets one. So you want to know what's happening, so you're going to read this. On almost every page is a little excerpt about a $10,000 offer that they have. So they say, you're at this event. We know what your pain point is because this event is kind of about that. Do you want to fast track a solution? You're going to learn so much in the next 3 days, and you can take that alone and have success. But would you like to skip the line, collapse time, and get to your aimed success faster? If so, we have what you need. In their case, it's a $10,000 high ticket offer, which is a year-long membership where you get a lot of hands-on training from their team. This particular event costs anywhere from $500 to $3,500 to attend. So they know that some people in the room, not all, but some people in the room can afford that, would find the value in it, and will make the decision to jump. So this event is probably breaking even when it comes to ticket sales. There's very little sponsorship, but a couple of sponsors there. Probably breaking even. They have a great location. It's a cool vibe. There are about 500 people there. But when it really gets interesting is, what if they convert 10% of that audience? That's $500,000. So maybe the event itself costs $100,000, $200,000 to put on, They sell tickets, they get the exchange there. Maybe, I'm lowballing that, it may be even more. But what if they're able to sell from stage 500,000 to $1 million each time they do these events? And what if they do these events more than once a year? Things get really, really interesting there. Another way of doing this is not to think about selling from stage, but to be your own sponsor, essentially, to promote your own product or your own launch at the event. Like, for instance, at Your First Million Live, I didn't sell from stage. I didn't have a high ticket offer that I wanted to sell from stage, although I do have one. I didn't sell my Academy membership or anything like that. What I did was I announced my regulation crowdfund of Yacht Water. So if you go to yachtwater.com, you'll see my Still and Sparkling Water Company. I kept it under wraps until the moment we were on stage and I could speak to all of the audience at once. And I said, you're in this audience, you're seeing this for the first time. No one else has seen this. I immediately showed them what Yacht Water is, so everybody was excited. And then the second the video was over, we made the Reg CF, the crowdfunding for equity, we made that campaign live. So if you're in that audience, you immediately can go to the QR code. You immediately can become a co-owner of Yacht Water. And then a few days later, we made it public to everyone else in the world. But that was so special, right? And we did 6 figures in that moment. And we probably could have done more if we had really pushed it, day after day. We really pushed it and made it a main thing, had QR codes all over the building. We didn't do any of that. We wanted it to be sort of a soft sell, something fun that people could participate in. But that was big. We also had Backstage Capital, which is my venture fund. We also had Backstage Capital as the main presenting sponsor, along with Catalyst Studios, which is Holly Anderson Laveau's film studio. And again, she had so much to do with Your First Million Live being able to happen. We had those as presenting sponsors. So behind us, half of the event are these huge logos. So there's that awareness that you're making, really putting yourself on the map. So there's many different ways to think about this. I love the idea of a smaller event too. Let me make sure you know that you do not have to start at 2,000 people, 500 people. Certainly, I wouldn't even recommend that. What I would recommend is that you start with a dinner. You start with a 6-person dinner. Everyone watching this has 6 people they could invite to a restaurant near them in their city. And that you could decide everyone pays for their own meal, or I'm going to cover the check because of what I think this could turn into. And what you do is you invite more than 6 people, because not everybody will be able to make it. You invite people of the same cloth, people who have something in common. They don't have to do exactly the same thing. It actually is nice when people are kind of mixed up a little bit, but they have the same ideals and the same direction. And maybe it's for entrepreneurs maybe you're an entrepreneur and you put on this dinner for 6 entrepreneurs and you say, I want to have some of the brightest minds in the room, and I want us to spend a couple of hours together eating great food, having wonderful conversation. There'll be a little bit of a theme to it, so we'll talk about it. And then this beautiful thing happens when everyone gets there, especially if they don't know each other already. You have each person introduce themselves. Give them enough time. Give them 2-3 minutes to introduce themselves. And as they're introducing themselves, there's this camaraderie that starts to take place. And there's sort of an instant interest that's happening. So they introduce themselves, you introduce yourself, you say why you want people to be in the room. And then you spend the rest of the evening having conversation. Maybe you talk about a specific theme or some challenges that everyone's going through, but you really just have the people, you have the salon. A salon comes from 17th century France, where it's about education or entertainment, right? You want pleasure or education or both, right? You want to just be able to casually talk to each other. Then what happens is that after that dinner, at least half of the people who attended reach out to you and thank you for the dinner. people stay in touch with each other, things start to percolate. It's very small at first, but it's meaningful. And over time, especially if you can be patient, over time, that turns into something big. Deals are made, friendships are forged, and you had everything to do with that. And that is how you start to build your network. So, especially if you think about, hey, can I put this on myself? Can I put this on the budget, like a line item for my company, where you're not asking for anything, you're not selling anything, you're not trying to get anything in return. What you're doing is just simply getting the ball rolling, lighting a spark that will turn into something over time. Now, take that same scenario and imagine you do it every single month. Imagine you do it in more than one city. Imagine you do it and it's 10 people or it's 15 people. It really starts to turn into something very, very special. You become known as this person who can curate a dinner, who can put certain people in a room. Over time, what also happens is that more and more aspirational people start to reach out and say, can they come to it? Or you might say, okay, I've done this a few times. Let me reach out to someone who would just blow people's minds if they walked into this room. You reach out to them, say, can I tempt you to come to this event? We're having a very intimate salon, a very intimate dinner. I would like for you to be the guest of honor, and just say a few words. And there's no pressure. You can say for as little as or as long as you want, but I'd love to have you there. If you do this request enough, people will say yes. And then you'll become known more and more and more as a connector. And then over time, what you can get more specific. This may happen before a big launch that you have. It may happen when you're fundraising. It may happen when you're about to reach a major milestone. It may happen when you're trying to hire the best and the brightest, and you have this network now who you can really just in the room tap them for their knowledge. You could stop halfway through the dinner, 15 people in the room, and say, I'm looking for a VP of sales. They have to be magnificent. Who do you all have? People start talking to each other, start pinging you, giving you information, and you have more than you need. That all can stem from a 6-person dinner down at the Red Lobster or wherever you want it to be. And it doesn't have to be fancy. It can be at your home. It can be casual. It can be a barbecue. I know a lot of people who do like barbecues. They're kind of known for, they have these barbecues and they get bigger and bigger each year. You can do that. It can be something that's a potluck. It can just be at, your favorite, just hang, your favorite bar, your favorite restaurant. So I would do that.